So Democrats will begin to present their case against President Trump tomorrow at the start of his second impeachment trial. President Trump is the only U.S. president to ever be impeached twice, but House impeachment managers face an uphill battle in the Senate. Several Republicans have said that they are against trying the former president, and a two-thirds majority is needed to convict him. So we want to bring in Ilya Shapiro. He is a lawyer and director of the Cato Institute's Robert E. Levy Center for Constitutional Studies. And you are going to help prepare us for what we're going to see tomorrow so we have an educated viewership. Ilya, what can we expect to see from both sides, and how long do we expect this trial to take? We've seen some memos, some briefs, so we have an idea of how both sides will be arguing.
Right. We don't know exactly how long it'll take. I think the strategy might still even be worked out, working itself out. Will the impeachment managers call witnesses, character witnesses, if you will? We saw the facts sort of play themselves out on our TV screens on January 6th, but will they call, say, Capitol police officers or Georgia officials who were pressured by President Trump? Because this is really not so much a factual dispute as arguments over, did President Trump actually incite the violence? Can more be brought into this about his behavior for the 2 months between the election and the events of January 6th? Those kinds of atmospheric arguments push against the question of whether this is even just going through the motions, because the Republicans, there need to be 17 Republican votes to convict. And on the motion to dismiss based on jurisdiction, whether you can try a former president, only 5 Republicans said yes. So maybe, as Nancy was talking about, the Democrats just want to get this over with and get on to President Biden's agenda.
So this is the second impeachment for the president. In what ways will it be different than the first? And I know there's been a lot of talk about, particularly when it comes to this debate about witnesses, is that, so much of the evidence many of us witnessed because it was streamed on social media or broadcast on cable or network television. But what are we talking about when we talk about sort of the key differences between the two impeachments?
Well, certainly to the general public watching this, they're much more familiar with these events for the reasons that you just described. This is not an obscure phone call that was leaked to a Ukrainian president, kind of arguing about was there not some pressure tactic that was unbecoming the presidency. This is, a mob sacked the Capitol. What role did President Trump play in that? Did he not do enough to stop it? Did he incite it? Did he inflame passions? And then does that rise to the level of an impeachable offense? It's much more theatrical, if you will, and much more significant with the additional gloss that, of course, he's no longer in office. So it's not a matter of should he be removed. He's already not there.
Okay, so part of the counter argument that we are hearing from the president's lawyers has to do with protected speech, that the president, like every other American, should be able to enjoy the ability to speak freely. Can you just talk about that as a defense and the difference between speech being protected and also sort of having consequences for your speech?
If this were a criminal trial, there's no way that he would be convicted because the bar is so high for inciting violence. And that's incitement is a technical legal term, which is partly why I think the Democrats, the impeachment managers, made a mistake in crafting their article to use the term incitement, and insurrection as well as a technical term of art. So that's what gets us into this First Amendment argument. Normally, to prosecute someone criminally for inciting violence, there has to be immediacy and there has to be specificity. That is, someone makes a speech saying, go out and kill those people, go out and, sack that building, what have you. And there wasn't that kind of specificity there. Now, impeachment is a political trial. It's a political action, a judgment about whether the president has committed a high crime and misdemeanor, lost the public trust, basically, or any official, not just the president. And so the argument is a little bit differently. It's not a matter of whether he has First Amendment protections. Absolutely he does. But there are certain things that a public official can do that's fully within his First Amendment rights, but still is a violation of the public trust that would deserve removal.
I'm really glad that you said that. We use the word trial back and forth. The Senate trial in an impeachment is very different than a criminal trial. The other thing, very quickly, Ilya, that I've heard being argued is that because this is a political process, you do need sort of political will. You do need public support. And without it, we probably would not have seen a second impeachment going forward.
I think this would have been a closer thing, would be a closer thing if he were still in office, because, you saw there was a vote. Only 5 Republicans said that a former official, or at least a former president, can still be tried. The Constitution is silent, is ambiguous about this. You can argue it either way. If he were still in office, it might be a different story. And for that matter, if it was a secret ballot, it might be a different story. Only 10 Republicans in the House voted to impeach, which is more than the first time. But if it was a secret ballot, perhaps there would have been more. There's this fear of the Trump supporting base and whether they need them, how much they need them, how much they will be offended if they vote to first impeach in the House and now to convict. But you're right. Public opinion is significant. And that's another difference from the first impeachment trial. The latest polls I've seen say 56% of the public would like to see President Trump convicted here. That's higher than the first time.
Ilya Shapiro, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Anne Marie.